Everybody, happy Monday. It's been a little while since I've had a chance to make a follow-up video about um, taking your power back. That's where I left off, and I was talking about building a relationship with self instead of just trying to fall in love without understanding yourself, without doing any cognitive work, any self-reflection, any self-awareness. It can be difficult. You have to build a relationship with yourself. And I want to probably for, I don't know, the next few videos or until I feel led away from it, I want to talk about taking your power back under the subject of traumas. There's not a single one of us, regardless of our background, where we came from, regardless of how good or bad our families were or are, we all have traumas in our life. Whether they're experienced firsthand, transcended and passed on through epigenetics, fear, and other things that I'll explain later on in the video or in the video series. But we all have traumas to deal with in our lives. And one of the things that I would say has a lot of potency in the topic of taking your power back and not just letting everything in the world bother you or offend you would be to investigate your triggers. And what I mean by that is everybody's been in the middle of traffic with somebody. Maybe it's not you, or maybe it is. And there's no rush, there's no time frame, and somebody pulls in front of them in a safe distance, and that person freaks out. Oh my God, how dare you pull in front of me? And it's a trigger of theirs. They feel cut off, whether they feel don't appreciate it, whether they feel they were thought to be insignificant by the other driver. But in all of that, you're also assuming that they saw you, that they were aware of your presence, that they're not in a rush or trying to get to the hospital to see a loved one. There's so much assumption that goes into triggers. Oh, I just hate the way that person eats or chews. Maybe they have a medical condition for the reason they can't do that. So this video, I want it to be the introduction of the topic of traumas under the chapter, if you will, or the other highlight, taking your power back. Everybody knows their triggers. What is something that triggers you, and have you ever spent time to think about why it triggers you and what it is about that sets you off or just doesn't sit right? Have you ever just backed up for a minute and gone, what is it about this person or this situation or this act or the way this turns out on a daily basis that fires me up so much and makes me so upset that it literally disturbs my mood for the day? I know that everybody can relate to triggers. Some people think it's all existential and it's, well, everybody's an idiot. All the drivers on the road are stupid, or, when we paint with this broad brush. And I would really say that the most powerful thing you could do would be to sit back and investigate why it triggers you so heavily. And stop blaming for a second. Stop blaming everything else. Stop blaming the fact that you think the world's just filled with people that were created to make you angry or to not be on your level, or whether, I've seen some of the most rude and inconsiderate behavior to somebody trying to wait on a table, or to somebody just trying to do a basic service, just because somebody was triggered by something. And when something happens and you get triggered, and immediately your mind frame and your thought process is the problem is the other person, instead of just extenuating circumstances or the way it just happened to work out, and you immediately default to that person is X, Y, or Z, and that's why I'm upset. They're stupid, or they didn't think of me, or that comes from an undealt with, unhealed, uncleared, and unintegrated trauma in your life. And I can say that from personal experience. There's so many things that we should just back up from a little bit, not allow it to get us so riled and go, why did that bother me so much? That little blip in the day that bothered me so much. And I know so many people from all kinds of different walks of life, and they might uh, talk spiritual. They might, do all the right things as far as, all of the actions that they need to do, and they might make amazing money, and they might have everything seemingly together. But if that person is somebody who reacts to everything and is offended by everything going on around them all the time, I would really say that only from my personal experience, take some time to really work on self and figure out why all of those simple little things that really aren't a big deal at all are making you murderously angry and crazy, and why they're triggering you so bad. Triggers are really, really important, and here's why. Here's the part about this that I want you to really focus on. Triggers can be like an iceberg, if you will. I like analogies. It's how I comprehend things. It's how I share thoughts, and it's how things make sense to me. So an iceberg, you can have this little blip above the surface, this little tiny thing. And underneath the surface, there's this huge mass. And you might just think that trigger is something minute, it's something silly. Oh, it's Monday morning and I haven't had my coffee yet, and that idiot did this in traffic, and it's not really a big deal, it's just this. I would argue that if that sends you into that much of a tailspin, if you're so easily offended and you're so bothered and triggered by everything, I would ask you and challenge you to do some self-reflective work and try to get below the surface and find out what that huge iceberg of emotion and you being fired up and taken off your game for sometimes hours or an entire day by one small little thing. What is it under the surface that's undealt with, that's unsettled, that's unhealed, that's unforgiven? What is it that's making you respond so big to such a tiny little blip above the surface? So anyway, just the next video I wanted to make, don't live your life iceberging it all the time with such huge emotional reactions, spikes of anger and anxiety, all of the things that trigger you. Do the work under the surface. Stop focusing on the small little trigger above the surface and look at what's underneath and what's causing you to have such a harsh reaction to those things. It's the next step in taking your power back. Investigate what triggers you and why does it trigger you. It's an amazing opportunity and an exercise to allow healing into your life, to allow self-reflection into your life, which is a great thing on every level. People who can't self-reflect and don't take the time to self-reflect can never heal truly what's going on inside of them. So take the time, do the work. What triggers you and why does it trigger you? Not the easy answer where you blame everybody else or you blame the situation. Why does it make you so upset? Do you spend your days iceberging? Hey, listen, I'm a human being. Just because I'm making these videos, I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I literally am, I'm not making these to tote how special or how, unaffected by my humanity I am. I'm still living a Monday through Sunday life. I still have fears, anxieties, a lot of work to do on myself. And I'm just thankful that I'm at a point where I can't get away from my own contribution to my reality on a daily basis. And I'm trying to share that experience a little bit. So what triggers you? Why does it trigger you? And do the work. Do the work under the surface to clear the large traumas that are stealing your power. And they're stealing it with such a small little blip in your day, but it cascades and turns into this big thing that it never needed to be, and you're offended and you're hurt. And really, all you have to do is heal yourself. Do some self-work. Do some reflective self-awareness and figure out what those triggers are and why they're there and heal them. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to do more video content on traumas coming up, epigenetics, traumas that we've lived through, how to remain in your power in the midst of a trauma or post a trauma or post a traumatic event and all of that. So listen, much love, family, and we'll talk to you later, and I look forward to making the next video. I'm going to try to get 2 or 3 out this week if I can. So, all right, blessings, everybody. Have a great night.